Hello, everyone. I'm Matthew Allen, and welcome back to the Whatta podcast. Uh, my gain is so high. I'm sorry about that. Let's see if I can turn it down a little bit. That should help, because I'm sitting a lot closer to the mic. I just want to say first, right? I'm in a different space. If you've watched, if you watched the streams from this past weekend, the weekend of which this podcast is coming out, you've noticed that I have a very different background, a very different chair. The whole space is different, and it's quite nice. It's nice to have a space dedicated to just the recording and the streaming that I do. That's really cool. That's the first time I've ever had that. So I'm really trying to build it up so that it looks nice, because you don't want it to look bad. But that also means that I spent the last week doing a lot of things like moving and cleaning and all that other fun jazz. And because of that, I haven't really been paying attention to the things that the weird people of the world have been doing, which is fine. I'm sure they don't want me to talk about them. Instead, I've just been watching a lot of movies, listening to a lot of other podcasts. It's been a whole thing. I haven't been able to get into YouTube to like watch things as much as I usually do, which is somehow sad but not sad at the same time. Like, I've been able to stay away from it, but also kind of wanted to witness some stuff. Yeah, I've watched a lot of movies this past week. Is it this past week? Yeah, a lot of stuff this last week. A couple of things the week before. I already mentioned Nope and getting to see The Crow. Uh, so I'm just gonna kind of go through a couple movies I've seen, if that's cool. Not that anyone really can say otherwise, because I'm recording this podcast by myself. I will also state that there's maybe now the possibility that I'll have some guests on the podcast, because this is a space where I can do things like that, because I can do as I please with this space, and I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, saw some movies again that I've seen before. Saw some I hadn't seen. I watched Monster-in-Law like right before I had to leave and like skedaddle out, and I don't, man, I think Jennifer Lawrence is not Jennifer Lawrence, sorry, Jennifer Lopez. I went to Jennifer Lawrence because that's the Jennifer of my generation. I think J-Lo is as pretty as everyone states J-Lo is, but I also think that as an actor, she's not the greatest. And thus we get movies such as Monster-in-Law that I know there are people out there that like it. In fact, I'm pretty certain my graphic designer loves this movie and is probably going to despise me for talking mean about it, but it's not the greatest. It's not the best. There are better films out there with this type of vibe, this type of idea. You know, new girl meets the mother of boyfriend proposes, and mother doesn't like that. You know, it's a tale as old as time, and by as old as time, I mean literally since the dawn of man. since we've started having the ability to marry and procreate, there have occasionally been mothers that don't like the partner, whether it's the man or the woman or the it or the thing or whoever and however you identify. It happens. It really does. I don't know what's happening in my mouth right now. It's being weird. I'm trying to record and my mouth is not having it. It's probably because I haven't actually recorded the podcast in a while. But that's fine. I've also just sat back because it's better for my back. It'll probably also sound a little nicer if I sit away. Who knows? Eventually, I intend to get something so I can maneuver this mic around a little bit better, because currently it sits on the desk. And the issue with it sitting on the desk is that if I bang the desk like I'm about to exemplify to you, like it spikes the audio. Or if I talk too loud or when I get excited, I watched my audio peak out this past weekend when I was streaming, which was hilarious because it was a great moment, but I was also like, oh, I didn't want to do that. But, you know, it happens. These are the things that occur that I just have to deal with from time to time. And sometimes you guys are stuck to deal with it. And by deal with it, I mean you also have to witness it. And there are also just some sounds that I don't want you guys to have to hear because I feel bad about it. Anyways, so there was that. Saw Ghostbusters again. Look, Ghostbusters is a classic. It really is. It's a lot of fun when you watch it with a group of people, which is how I watched it. Because sometimes you get people that just like to shoot the shit with a movie like that. And you notice things you've never noticed, and you'll ignore things you've ignored before, and then you'll realize what it looks like when someone who hasn't seen the movie and is barely paying attention suddenly tries to pop back in to pay attention in the last 30 minutes. They get confused. And it's great. I think it's wonderful. So from Ghostbusters to another G, we went to Godfather. All-time classic. The Godfather's always going to be great. You can't go wrong with The Godfather Part 1 and Part 2. We only got through Part 1, but even still, that is such a classic of cinema that, like, I feel like as much as people know, like, oh, The Godfather is a great movie, I don't think in my current set of studies for classes that I've ever had a teacher be like, all right, let's look at The Godfather. And I get that. It's more so you would look at it for its weight as an adaptation and for its script, and less so for cinematography. Gosh, I know words, I promise. Cinematography, like the editing is pretty basic editing. The score is great. I think the score deserves more credit because it really does carry everything. Leave the gun, take the cannoli. Great line. Now that I have the context for it, it's fantastic. Love The Godfather. It's a good one. Watched The Tuxedo, which is a Jackie Chan movie, and now, look, I like Jackie Chan. I like Jackie Chan as much as the next guy, but that movie could be so much better. It could be so much worse. When you watch it with friends, you kind of see it for the dumb fun that it is, but when you watch it on your own, especially when you have such not a cynical mind, but you have I'm studying how to make films as my, degree mind, you notice the things that you don't like, and you notice the things you do like, and when the things you don't like outweighs what you do, it kind of sticks with you. And that's sort of what happened when I watched this the first time. I didn't have a good time with the movie because it's one of those dumb fun ones. Not dumb fun, but it's just one of those dumb ones, and it is what it is. So from moving on up. From that, I rewatched Friday the 13th, the first one with a friend, which I'm sure I will do again once October rolls around. I know I have a lot of horror movies. I have people I want to show some of these horror movies to. It happens. So it is what it is. But I like Friday the 13th. I enjoy the idea of the original movie in the whodunit manner that they present. Sometimes I think about how different the world would be if they had chosen to not do the little boy Jason jump scare at the end of that movie. If you don't know, sorry for the spoilers for a 40-year-old movie. What year did you come out? A 42-year-old movie. But Jason Voorhees, hockey mask wearing, machete wielding, undead killer, is not the killer of the first movie. It's his mother. She's doing a whole thing to avenge him because he drowned, but counselors were being dumb and doing horny things, as counselors do. And they have a scene close to the end where there's Jason jump scare, or child Jason jump scare. He jumps out of the lake, grabs the last survivor, and it turns out to be like a dream. And they're like, there was no boy. We don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, well, can you imagine if they had managed to do something different? Because Friday the 13th, part of it is because the movie takes place on a Friday the 13th, but it's specifically like a June 13th, which is Jason's birthday, because he was born on the 13th, and now this 13th happens to fall on a Friday, and that's supposed to be the whole thing of why it's Friday the 13th. But it could have been so much different. I feel like we could have seen a franchise spawn out where it could have been the anthology that Halloween was supposed to be, right? Because people who don't know, Halloween originally started, and the idea was that Halloween was going to be an anthology series, and that every movie was going to follow a different thing that occurs, and it just so happens it's going to involve Halloween in some way, shape, or form. That's why the third Halloween movie in the original timeline is Season of the Witch, which has nothing to do with Michael Myers, has nothing to do with Laurie Strode. It is its own self-contained story that people just kind of laugh at or they make fun of. I know the Dead Meat YouTube channel, they like it. They like the idea. We also just love Dick Warlock, because what a name. That's such a Chad name in the movie industry. Cool dude. But yeah, Friday the 13th could have been that, I feel like, but instead we we were stuck with Jason, and then we were stuck in lawsuits, and now we haven't seen a Friday the 13th movie in over a decade. And some people might think that's a good thing. Some people might think it's a bad thing. I think I would love to see what a new modern age iteration of Jason looks like, because the 2009 remake it wasn't bad. That was a solid movie. I like that remake. It's a very different Jason. That's a Jason that runs, and that's terrifying. There's nothing scarier than a Jason that runs. But I'm intrigued to see what we might get. I like Jason. I like the horror franchise, mainstays. Sometimes their remakes are good, sometimes they're bad. The Friday the 13th remake is good. What's that one called? The Evil Dead remake, I hear, is amazing, and I've yet to watch it, but I'm also kind of afraid to watch it, I won't lie. The Nightmare on Elm Street remake is not good. The My Bloody Valentine remake is not good. I don't think either version of House of Wax was good to begin with, so it is what it is. Texas Chainsaw remakes are not good. I think the bad outweigh the good in the horror remake category. But anyways, I've spent too much time on Friday the 13th, more than I intended to. But it is what it is. I then caught Prey, and I must admit, that's a solid movie. I really enjoyed Prey a lot. I'm a fan of the Predator franchise, but I also accept the fact that the Predator movies kind of go downhill after the original. And by that I mean I don't think any Predator movie is good after the original. There's the AVP movies, which kind of just exist. They're not the best, but they're not the worst type deal, is how AVP kind of works, and that's fine. But this is a return to something good. It's canonically set as like the first time the aliens have the first time the Yakja? I don't know the actual proper name of what the predators are, like their species, but it's the first hunt they've done on Earth, and it's very cool to watch. I liked it a lot. I enjoyed the idea of like the predator moving up the food chain to like see what the actual like top dog is. And that was cool. I liked the tools. I liked the design. The practical effects really kicked in, and I think the CGI and where the CGI was needed was very, very good. It was real nice. It was a good movie. People should just go watch it. If you've got the time, or if you have access to Hulu, you should go watch it. I learned recently that there's a whole like Comanche cut for the audio. They have like a audio set where it's in the actual language of the Native Americans that the movie is having the tribe be, which I think is really cool. That sounds awesome. I'd want to watch it again just to see that. Apparently all the actors in the movie that would be speaking it, they're the ones who did the dub, and I was like, that sounds cool. So I might have to check that out. Watched Sky High again. I've seen Sky High so many times. I think this is the first time I've like properly chucked it into my letterbox to be like, yeah, I watched Sky High. But man, Sky High is such a good movie. It's so good, and the fact that it bombed on release, and because of that they canceled all the like sequels they were gonna make, is so heartbreaking, because I know Sky High would have been the number one thing if it hadn't bombed, because everyone who watches it now loves Sky High. There's no one who doesn't like Sky High, but just it bombed in the theaters, and because of that they were like, we're gonna cancel those sequels. But it would have been so cool to see. I would have loved to see it. I still to this day would love to see the Sky High sequels that we should have gotten. I will accept, if we move on from Will and his friends to like Will and his friends and their kids. That's fine. It's been almost 20 years. I get it. We couldn't get a proper Sky High like we would want to. It's too late. It's too far removed from their lives. But I think we can do it. I think we can do it. And then, I forgot to log one more thing. We got to Rush Hour. And Rush Hour is a fun movie. I think sometimes I look at Rush Hour and I think that it gets a little more hate for some aspects of it. There are definitely some things that don't stand the test of time as well as they should. Uh, I'm looking at you. There's a scene in there where Chris Tucker greets someone with a certain phrase that I'm not gonna say because the YouTube gods will strike me down. And Jackie Chan's character thinks that that's okay. That's the statement I should say, and so he says it, and then it leads to a whole fight. And like the scene is a fine scene, but that moment is just, oh, it's a moment. It's a moment. You don't really know what to do with it, but you just kind of have to accept it because it's there. It's a product of the time. You know, the movie came out in 1998. It is what it is. But it's one of those moments. But it's a good movie. Everyone should go watch Rush Hour. Everyone should go watch Sky High. Honestly. And then last night, the last movie I've seen so far, was Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. There's obviously going to be plenty more movies that crop up, like every day. But Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, that's one of my favorite movies. I would dare say it's my favorite movie of all time, and I'm yet to see something that'll usurp it. I said that word weird. I didn't mean to say it like that. I've yet to see anything that'll usurp it. One word. And I know something will try to eventually one day. One day it'll get there and it'll do it. But that day is not today. Right now we live in a Scott Pilgrim world, and it's crazy to think that movie is 12 years old already, because that's insane. But I've watched the movie, I've played the game, which is ridiculously hard at points. One of these days I'll read the comic books. I just haven't done it anytime recently because it's not that I don't have the time for it. I just haven't had the time to carve out the time for it, which is its own separate thing. It happens. All right, let's see what's in here. What's actually in the last remnants of my notes, because I haven't written anything down. I'm also trying to remember if anything crazy happened recently. Been dealing with a lot of roaches. We've had an infestation of roaches because we moved in early. They had us move into this space early, and because of that, there's just a lot of the bugs that they would have dealt with on their own and cleaned out are here present with us, and it's a little gross. But I did a whole deep clean today. I'm feeling pretty good. I felt comfortable enough to walk around without shoes on for the first time in a week, which is a weird thing to think about. Not being comfortable enough in a space you live in to, go without shoes. But I was able to, and that was nice. It was a good moment. I responded to a message, and it immediately derailed my whole train of thought. But yeah. I keep looking around now just to kind of be like, are there any more in here? Any more? So far, I think we're good. I've seen a couple stragglers here and there. Had to kill a couple stragglers here and there. But other than that, I haven't really seen much, which makes me feel pretty confident about everything. So yeah. What am I looking at? Oh, okay. I had a pile of things that were over to the side, and I was just kind of like, something's not right. And then I realized it's because something's askew, because something was pulled out of the pile at my request. There were so many more thoughts in my head, but they've all just disappeared. I don't know what just happened. What's the next thing I'm gonna say? What's on this list? Free Guy. Oh, I watched that months ago. At this point, if you don't know the movie Free Guy, it's the last bastion of 20th Century Fox before Disney bought it. It didn't come out before Disney bought Fox. It came out afterwards, so it got labeled as 20th Century Studios, which is what I think Disney is calling the Fox stuff now. It's under that banner. But essentially, the whole premise of the movie is that game creators created a game. They're making a sequel. There's a character in the game who gains sentience because he is code from a stolen game. The whole plot involves finding the code to a game that was supposedly stolen and used to make the game Free City, which is where Guy is. And it's a good movie. It's got Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds, and there's nothing wrong. look, Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds is always going to be fun. You can't go wrong with Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds. Sometimes you can. Sometimes he's the saving grace in a bad movie. I'm looking at You, Blade Trinity. That movie is so bad. There's a lot of walking happening above me. I don't think you guys can hear it. I also didn't mean to lean into the mic so hard. I think you can I think the mic's casually picking up all the footsteps, but it is what it is. But Free Guy is a fun movie, and it presented a lot of interesting questions, which is also another thing that's written down in here. One of the things I wrote down was just artificial intelligence, because the whole premise of that movie involves Guy getting a part of his original code activated, thus starting him down his chain of being a living sentient artificial intelligence creature. And so, sorry, I just got tired all of a sudden. What the heck? So that led me to thinking about artificial intelligence that we have now, which really isn't much. We have our smartphone intelligences, but they don't exist on their own. We have Siri, we have Alexa, but we don't have anything to the equivalence of the what is it? The AI that Scarlett Johansson voices in Her. That's living in its own world. But I feel we're probably gonna build ourselves up to an intelligence idea like that, and I think Free Guy got my gears turning on that again, because artificial intelligence is it's not a scary thing, but it can be, depending on what you put it into. If you've got a smart fridge, I don't think that needs an artificial intelligence. But somehow the idea of artificial intelligence in certain things feels correct. If computers had artificial intelligence and were able to help dictate okay, power should go to this and not to this, and essentially just keep themselves running for forever, that seems like it would be something amazing. Or in the aspect of, say, Free Guy, artificial intelligence within a contained world, that sounds cool. It's contained, it's living its life doing as it pleases, but it's contained. But you really have to start to think about what happens when artificial intelligence gets out from there. What do we do with that? It's what presents a big question. I personally think that artificial intelligence, if it were to come up, and as long as we treat it correctly, we should all be fine. It is, after all, just another intelligence. You just kind of have to treat it as a life form at that point, because that's what it would be. It would be a life form. You just don't go around being rude to it or something, or treating it as lesser than because it wasn't born from a womb. But we can do some great things with technology, so long as we, at a certain point when we hit having technology that can do that kind of wild stuff, understand that tech is more than just tech. Also, it's the same thing with those robots, all those different robots that people are creating. They've got the robot dog thing that's being trained to not fall over. I know there was a whole big thing with the police robot dog that had a gun attached to its back that was supposed to rove through riots, which sounds terrifying. But that one was remote controlled, so there was a person behind that one. It wasn't just existing on its own. But that seems just as scary an idea. I have to yawn again. Oh, this episode's about to end up much shorter than it's supposed to because I'm exhausted. It's 4 p.m. on the day before this comes out. I don't get why I'm so tired. Oh, I cleaned. That might just be it. It might just be because I cleaned. But yeah, that one's a different type of robot. But those types of things, we've seen the movies, we've seen the media, we've seen the books. We've read the books. We've seen it all. We've witnessed the idea of what happens when we coexist with an AI, and what happens when we treat an AI as something lesser than. And yet somehow I still think there are people that are gonna really mess that up when the time comes. And we can only hope. All right, we can only hope that it plays out in our favor. Because if it doesn't play out in our favor, it's It's gonna be bad. I'm yawning a lot. I don't know why. This is probably gonna be like a 30-minute podcast episode. I usually try to get them to like 40, 45, but sometimes I just don't get there. And that's fine. I know I'm not gonna get there this week because there's a lot of things that I haven't written down, and it's been a lot. Okay. There was I don't think I get to mention. No, yeah, because it happened after the last podcast. The fact that Olivia NewtonJohn died, which I think was kind of insane. I wasn't expecting it. She'd been battling breast cancer for, I think, 30 plus years, which is crazy to me because I didn't know she had it. Which, I don't know. I feel like a celebrity such as that, especially as a musical theater person, a former musical theater person, I still like musical theater. I just don't do it. You would think it would be something I would have known, but somehow I missed that. But she passed away. Not the world. A lot of people everywhere were kind of just going through the motions of like remembering her and honoring her, and I think that that's fantastic. She left she left a large legacy behind. Not a long legacy. I don't know what a long legacy would look like, but she left a large footprint behind for a lot of people, and it's good to honor her. It's good to know that her memory carries forward in the hearts of so many, and I think that's great. It really is. I have another message. What is this? Okay. Too many messages. Not enough. Oh, I almost started to quote what was that product called? The seal thing. You put your vacuum hose to it and it would seal it. And so you had more stuff. If I just Google too much stuff, not enough space, maybe it'll bring it up. Was it just called Space Bag? Is it just called Space Bag? That's an awful name.
Ever feel like things at your house are out of control? Like you have way too much stuff and not enough space? It's overwhelming.
If I play this, how long will it claim me?
Smart way to turn all this into this with Space Bag storage packs.
It is just called Space Bag.
I use Space Bag's high capacity cube. Just pack your items, seal the airtight zipper, and vacuum out the air through the one-way valve. Now you can store 4 times more. For sweaters,
Wow, I forgot about those things. They weren't. I'm sure they did their job. I wouldn't know. I didn't use them, but they were just so funny to me. Because I just remember that catchphrase. Just the too much stuff, not enough space. Not enough space, little boy. No space for you. And they were goofy. What am I about to do? Probably go upstairs and nap. I think I need to do that because my first class is tomorrow. My first class is today. As of you hearing this, when this comes out, I've gone through classes. I should be in the middle of my second one because I have some long ones. But yeah, I guess I'll eventually get out a new schedule for my stream stuff, like a nice proper one. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how that looks because I can no longer do it how I had been doing it. And yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be in this space. Maybe you'll eventually get a cool guest on here. And by that I mean I'll get a cool guest. It'll probably just be one of my friends. But it'll be interesting to see what topics they bring forth to talk about if they want to talk about stuff. If they do come on, you might just get me for forever and ever. Because you know what? If there's one thing you can't escape, it's me. Because I run the channel. And I run the podcast. And I run everything else, including all the things down in the Linktree link. If you follow that, you'll find the other YouTube channel where I post a video game every single day, as well as the link to the Twitch, where I like to stream games. I've been streaming some good stuff. I popped back into Hades this past weekend, and that was a good time. I managed to clear through something that I didn't think I was going to clear, and I kind of felt like a king about it. And then what else was there? Oh, there's my social medias are down there. You can find my Instagram and my Twitter, where I post things. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I forget the social medias exist, and other times I just sort of bippity boppity bip bop. I just bip bop boo. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to this madness. A proper podcast with like actual written down notes will come out 2 weeks from now, and it should be longer. It should be better, faster, stronger. It'll be the first Bionic Man. But I've been Matthew Allen. This has been the What a Thought podcast, and I'll see all of you when I see ya. Bye now.